So we did this event, and it was themed loosely based around the BBC show The Traitors, if you've seen that. And the aim of the event was to explore that first Easter and work out and unmask who were the traitors, who were the ones that weren't telling the truth, and who were the ones that also were implicated in the death of Jesus. And what's really important to know about the Easter story is that Jesus actually willingly went to his death. See, Jesus had the opportunity to change the course of events that actually led to his crucifixion. Jesus was aware of the painful death that was approaching and was coming to him. But Easter also is more than a time of just where we talk about how Jesus died. It's not just a commemoration of those moments. It's also a thing that we as Christians celebrate. And there are two reasons. Firstly, because that death wasn't just a pointless, meaningless death. It achieved for us a victory over sin and death. And it also wasn't just about Good Friday. It's about today. It's about the story not ending with death, but resurrection. He's coming back to life. This extraordinary event changed the lives of his followers at that time, and every follower of Jesus since. At Easter, Christians aren't just remembering the events from the past. We're celebrating how Jesus now lives and how our lives are changed and how our futures are changed by him. Like I said, Jesus knew what was coming, what needed to happen, that he was facing a death, a horrible death, and yet he chose it for what it would accomplish. It's Jesus' faithfulness that I'm just going to spend a few minutes on, thinking about. He lived in such a way, with such consistency, such determination, such integrity around what he came to do. And we want to celebrate that trust and faithfulness. When we think of the word faithful, we do mean sort of being truthful. That's what we mean by the word faithful. The faithfuls in the TV show, if you haven't happened to have seen it, are the ones that are who they say they are. They're truthful to their real identities. But faithful does mean more than just being truthful. Faithful means following a course of action about what you truly believe. It means sticking to it no matter what, even if it costs you or it seems difficult. Staying the course because it's worth it. And sometimes we can miss faithfulness because actually it takes time to show up at times. You grow, don't you, to trust people. That takes time. To know that they're reliable. A friend of ours has just given up a teaching career of 20 years, and she said something to me the other day. She said it was really interesting. It was only really at a leaving party that she really came to fully appreciate how she was appreciated by others. Her showing up day to day, her being consistent, they were often not noticed or they just passed by. But actually it's those people that do those things that are actually the ones in our lives that actually often have really lasting impact. Think about a parent's faithfulness to raising a child, or if you look after a sick relative, that takes day in and day out faithfulness. And faithfulness, showing up day to day, communicates love in a way like nothing else does. Jesus showed his faithfulness throughout his whole life. He had a way of being and a mission that meant that people put their trust in him. He also spoke of his own faithful commitment to do his Father's will or work. That's what defined Jesus, was doing the Father's will. This faithfulness in the Easter events is never seen more clearly. And there are three ways that I just want to mention. Joel, if you bring up the slide for that. There were three ways. Jesus was faithful. He was a faithful friend to the faithless. He was committed not just to his Father's plan for him, to God's plan, but he was committed to loving people, and often people that were overlooked or rejected by others. And he was faithful to fulfill even in suffering. To be faithful in staying the course often means showing courage and staying faithful and digging in even hardships and danger. You have to stay the course to be faithful. And finally, the faithfulness of Jesus was to fulfill all that he said he would do, and it's that leads Christians to have so much hope. And so I'm going to use some characters from the Easter story that are going to help us in this. And the first thing I want to say then was this faithfulness of Jesus as a faithful friend to the faithless, showing up in this commitment to God and others, and his Father's plan and his Father's love for people. So I'm going to invite one of the characters from the Easter story, a guy called Thomas, and Thomas is going to come in and introduce himself.
Hello, there's a lot of people here, aren't there? I wasn't
There
expecting.
certainly is.
I wasn't expecting that many.
You're used to just hanging around with about 12. Yeah. So tell us a bit about yourself, Thomas.
Oh, well, thank you. Okay, I will. Thank you. Oh, that's really loud. So my name's Thomas. I'm also known as Didymus. And that apparently just means twin. That's what it is. I'm a twin. I come from Galilee. You might have heard of Galilee. It's kind of got a lake, but it's big. We call it the Sea of Galilee. That's how big the lake is. The actual place is fairly small. And I ended up being given a nickname as well. And some people, unfortunately, it's a bit unkind, but they call me Doubting Thomas. Doubting Thomas. A bit more of that later on.
Oh, okay. And tell us about this night that happened when Jesus was arrested then.
Well, okay, so we were all together. We were celebrating Passover. So we were together having Passover, and that meant we had a meal together with the other disciples. And Jesus did this really weird thing. He suddenly went kind of weird on us, and we weren't really sure what he was doing and what it was about. But he took off his outer clothes, kind of wrapped a towel around his waist, and started washing our feet. And we were going, that really is a job for one of the servants. That's not kind of the guest of honour shouldn't be washing people's feet. That's just for the servants to do. And slowly it started dawning on us, actually, I think this might be because he's trying to tell us something. He's trying to say he came to serve us rather than the other way round. And I think one of the key things that's worth mentioning from that meal as well was that Jesus did it for all of us. And even one of us kind of went, no, don't do it to me, let me wash your feet. Wash all of me if you're going to do it. And Jesus was like, no, just sit still and let me serve you. And I think that was probably the thing that made me realise that he cared about each of us individually. So it wasn't just about us in a group, it was us individually. We knew that he loved us.
Okay, thank you. And what is it that you guys did after this meal?
Well, I would like to say that we were all, proper friends, and, we looked after him and we stood by him, but I've got to be honest, we didn't do too well that night at all. Judas sold him out. That was the first thing that happened. Jesus asked us to come and pray with him, only for a little while, so we all went up onto the hill, and it had been a long day, we'd had a big meal, we kind of just dozed off and left him to it, let him down big time there as well. And then actually, when he was arrested, even Peter, who had been kind of the bravest one of all of us really, he'd kind of sword out and he'd done a bit of, all that kind of stuff. And even he ended up denying that he knew Jesus 3 times. So by the end of the night, all of us had let him down completely. And basically, we legged it, we ran away. It's shameful, but that's what we did.
Okay, and what happened next?
Well, this is where it gets really good, because after this kind of bad experience, we were obviously knew that he'd died and we knew that he'd been buried. We were kind of quite scared, we were afraid. We went and hid actually in a room a bit smaller than this. We come upstairs, room out of the way, kept the door locked because we were a little bit nervous that the soldiers might come after us as well. And then we were still there 3 days later, and suddenly the women started saying, he's alive, he's not dead anymore, he's alive. And we were like, no mate, this can't be right. Then the other disciples started telling me as well, and I was going, absolutely, no, I can't believe this. I thought they were just spinning me a lie, just trying to cheer us up or something. And in the end I said, if I can't see it myself, then I'm not going to believe it. And that is the amazing thing. We were in the room, and suddenly Jesus appeared in the room with us. And even then, when I saw him, I thought this should do it. I was like, no, actually, just seeing him's not enough. I want to be able to actually feel the wounds in his hands and on his side. And once I've done that, then I'll believe him. And this is where I know Jesus loved me individually, because he said, that's fine, Tom. It's like he already knew I was going to ask him. And he said, you can come and feel my sides and touch my hands. And when I did, then I knew, I absolutely believed. And at that point, it was just worship. All I could do was fall down and worship. And then Jesus said something else, even more astounding, which might be helpful for some of you guys. He said, Thomas, You believe because you saw me. There's going to be people that come after you that are going to be more blessed because they're going to believe even though they haven't seen me.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Thomas.
Nice to see you.
Much appreciated. Good to see you again. Yeah, maybe next year. Thank you. Yeah. So like Thomas, the faithfulness of Jesus showed itself in his commitment to people in different ways, and every disciple showed themselves to be flawed in some way. One betrayed him, as we heard. Others couldn't stay awake when they needed them to, and they all ran away. And one of them denied him 3 times. Jesus was tried alone and he died alone. And we probably all experience times when we know what that's like to be let down by people. Some of us probably have some pretty deep scars from people who have let us down, people who've been unfaithful to us in our lives. Jesus knew what those feelings were like because he lived through them. And he did it, and yet he remained committed to those that failed him. And if we're honest with ourselves, we can probably also think about times when we might perhaps have failed others. We probably have all got standards of love and care for people that we have fallen short of. I know I have. When he appeared to his followers, after coming back to life, he opened his arms to them. When Thomas, as he said, when Thomas doubted that he could truly be alive, he did what Thomas said. He was gracious to him, and he said, "Look, come and actually touch these wounds then. Feel them." And Jesus wasn't just committed to those people, he's committed to all of us. There's plenty of times in my life when I've showed myself to be flawed. But the good news of Jesus is that even though we fall short and will be faithless, if we return to Jesus, he will open his arms to us. Jesus is committed to us. It says in John 3:16, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that everyone who believes in him will not perish but have eternal life." And that's it. Jesus shows his faithful to us in his commitment to us. Even when we mess up, there's a way back in. There was a guy called Israel Navez, and he was a gang leader of a street gang. And he got saved alongside his deputy. It's a well-known story of this Baptist preacher from a country town who went into New York City, saw the state of New York and all the gang fighting that was going on. And he went in and he preached Jesus to these people about how Jesus loved them and saw them. And Israel Navez, he got saved in one of those meetings. He gave his life to Jesus, but within a few weeks he made a decision that changed and affected his life at that moment. He got sent back to prison at that point, and he turned away from Jesus. But actually, he turned back in prison, and he gave his life to Jesus. He surrendered back to Jesus, and he became a gospel minister. He ran a youth project, and he wrote a story called Second Chance. And it's always struck me, that is the God. We have the God of second chances. Jesus is faithful to us even when we're not. And secondly then, Jesus is faithful for fulfill, and it takes, even in suffering, he stays through it. And that takes courage. We sometimes hear the word faithful, and I don't know about you, it's got a kind of predictable, plodding kind of description to it. But actually, if you truly believe something and you want to stay true to something, it's going to be tough. It's going to take courage. Soldiers are faithful. They're committed to the cause. They stake their lives on it. Faithfulness means enduring suffering unswervingly, courageously if needed. And as I say, we're going to have someone else come up. We're going to have a teacher of the law who was one of those who conspired to get Jesus arrested and killed. So if the teacher of the law would like to come in, you might recognise him from last week as well. And so, hello. Welcome.
I'm the Pharisee. Do I have to hold things?
If you don't, I can hold it for you. But
I suppose I can.
So, tell us about, why was it that you wanted to get rid of Jesus?
Well, I'm a teacher of the law. I mean, we're in positions of power here. And this Jesus was stirring up the rabble. He was accusing us at all courts, accused us of hypocrisy. And where would that have led if it had risen an uprising had come about? The Romans would have clamped down on us and blamed us, and we would have lost our faith, our nation, our positions. Basically, we were afraid of what he might do.
So tell us what did happen when he got arrested, when he got him arrested?
Well, we had one of his own, Judas. We paid him off and we arrested him in the garden. And then we took him to the high priest and had him tried. And we'd arranged some witnesses who gave us the testimony that we wanted to hear and also the justice that we wanted to hear. So we were very pleased with that. Now we expected Jesus to back down on that, but he didn't. He just stayed silent throughout, which confused us. Well, he hadn't really done anything wrong, and we weren't not keen on having the blood on our hands, so we passed him over to the Romans to deal with. And they tried him, and then the mob turned against him, and the Romans mocked him, flogged him, and eventually they crucified him.
And then what happened? I hear that Jesus' body is missing.
Well, rumours. I mean, how could it possibly rise from the dead? What would that mean? What could that? This interview's over. Thank you.
Thank you. Give him a round of applause. and so that was it. Jesus was faced with arrest. He was flogged, but throughout it all, Jesus doesn't turn away from the task. We see a glimpse in the Garden of Gethsemane of the anguish that he does in terms of wrestling with this decision, the hours of prayer that he has, where he says, God, your will be done in this. He was faithful to the will of God. And that takes courage. It means holding the course, as I said. Even in suffering, Jesus had an out. Even in his trial, it's said that there was this moment where he said, I could call down heaven's armies to save me. But he knows that his sacrifice was necessary, and so he doesn't do it. He stays silent and he lays down his life. Soldiers, as I said, are faithful people because they risk their lives for a bigger cause, and Jesus risked his life, a rescue mission for the biggest cause of all, to overcome sin and death. There was a leader of a church within a few sort of decades of the stories in the Bible, of what's gone on in the Bible. There, a guy called Polycarp, and at the end of his life, he was 86 years old, and he was put before the Romans, and they said, you've got a choice. You can either bow to Caesar and deny Jesus, or you stay loyal and faithful to Jesus, and you will die. And this is what he said. 86 years have I served Christ, nor has he done me any harm. How then could I blaspheme my King who saved me? And he was burned at the stake. Polycarp was changed, though, by Jesus' faithfulness to him. It was Jesus' faithfulness in suffering and walking with Polycarp all of his life that was contagious enough that he had the courage in that moment to say that. And thirdly and finally then, Jesus' faithfulness to fulfill everything that he said brings us hope. Jesus' faithfulness is forever. It brings those who trust in him the most amazing of hopes. And I'm going to just invite one last character up, Joanna, who arrived at the tomb. And Joanna's going to just share something of what she experienced on that first Easter morning. Hello, Joanna. Tell us about who you are.
Well, I'm Joanna, one of the women who followed Jesus. I went with spices to the tomb on the first Easter morning.
And tell us what happened when you arrived.
So when we arrived that early morning, we found the tomb open and we found it empty and the stone was rolled away. Two men appeared in clothes as bright as lightning, and we were terrified, falling to our knees. And the men said, "Who do you look for? Why do you look for the dead when you should be looking for the living? For he is not here, he is risen. Remember how he told you while he was still with you in Galilee, the Son of Man must be delivered over to the hands of sinners, to be crucified and to rise on the third day."
That sounds very hard to believe.
It was hard to believe, but when we found the tomb empty, suddenly we filled up with joy. Then we met the risen Jesus for ourselves. We fell at his feet and were very overwhelmed. And then we now must run to the others to spread the good news that he is alive and risen.
Brilliant. Thank you, Joanna. Give her a round of applause. And that was Jesus' promise to those first believers. He said that death will not hold me. These things will happen. I will rise again. Faithful people stick to their promises, don't they? Promises mean something. We've probably all got people in our lives that we know actually if they say they're going to show up, they're definitely going to show up. Those faithful people, we know of them. But Jesus' promises are off the scale. And around this room are 8 pieces of orange paper. And I wondered if the kids would go around and just gather them quickly in. And there is an Easter egg for everyone that you bring in, but only one each. If you could bring those in. These are just some of the promises. If you bring them over to me, Reese, could you dispense Easter eggs for me from this part here? Oh, hello. Thank you very much. Thank you. So this first one says, but Jesus promises his guidance. I am with you always to the very end of the age. William, it says, I give them eternal life, and they shall never perish. No one will snatch them out of my hand. So he promises us security and that he'd be with us. He says friendship and love. He says, I no longer called you servants. Instead, I have called you friends. Brilliant. Thank you. And he says, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though they die. And he also says, rest and comfort. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Jesus makes a promise to us of rest and comfort. Thank you very much. And he says, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. He will meet our needs. Brilliant. Thank you. And he says, the gift of peace. He promises us peace. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Thank you very much. Brilliant. And he promises to answer our prayers. He says, if you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish and it will be given to you. So Jesus makes some incredible promises to us. And again, what's our hope? Why do we trust in these promises? And it comes back to this faithfulness of Jesus, even in coming back to life. As one person famously said about Jesus, he either, if Jesus said those things, you can't just put him in the camp of someone who was just a wise person. The claims that he made, he was either mad or bad, or he was who he said he was God. And it's, as I say, the promise that he's going to overcome death itself. Other promises, because of that, because he now lived, we can trust in the other promises. And it's difficult to pin your hopes on stuff in this unstable world that we're finding ourselves in. Wars. We're seeing, we see what's going on in the news at the moment. Redundancies. It could be unexpected crises. The loss. And we know ultimately the sting of death. And some people choose the route of shutting people out as a way to go. But actually we were made for relationship. We were made to be loved and love. And it is actually a wonderful thing to be around people that fill you with hope and are life-giving. And Jesus is the one who loves, and he lives still. And there's hope in him like no other. And I guess the question to finish is this: what am I hoping in? We want the universe to be fair and just. We want justice for those that don't get it. And one day there will be a judgment, a day when everything will be put right. But each of us will have to answer on that day, and we'll have to say, where am I putting my hope? Jesus is faithful. He is unchanging. He loved then, and he changed his life, just like Joanna and Thomas declared about their lives, their experience. He continues to do that today. In the last week, I was at an Alpha course, and there was someone there that had just said they'd been exploring the Christian faith for a while, and they said that they'd finally surrendered themselves to Jesus, and they were asked, how do you feel? And they go, I just feel a sense of peace. I just feel a sense of peace. And I know for myself that first time of encountering, just like Sarah said, remembering that first day you meet with Jesus, and it is the peace that comes. It is that sense of knowing that there is someone in the universe that truly, truly loves you. And I noticed that it started changing things in me. My anger and my unforgiveness started to shift. Hope was replaced despair. So I'm just going to, for Jesus, the followers of Jesus, who they were putting their faith, is this promise that Jesus is faithful forever that brings us our hope. Because he was faithful then, he will be faithful now. And I want to finish by praying for us. And then we're going to have a worship song which is called Amazing Grace. And Amazing Grace is a song that was written by someone who had their life changed by Jesus. And who they were, the person they were before and the person they were after. And they were just blown away by this person of Jesus. And we're going to just finish with that song. And it may be you're not there yet. Maybe you don't know Jesus. Maybe you're not trusting in him. And my encouragement is go and find out who he is. Go and look at his life. Look at the faithfulness of his life and who he claimed to be. And it may be that you are convinced, but you've just never committed yourself to him. And I would just say, during this time of worship, just surrender your heart to him. Or it may be that you've been someone who's perhaps actually, I've been quite faithless. I've wandered away from him. And I need to come back to him. I need that second chance or that third chance or whatever it is. And again, just use this time to come back. We're going to sing the song now, and I'm just going to pray, and then we're going to go straight into the song, if that's okay, Laura. Jesus, I want to just close your eyes for a second, just take a moment. Father, I want to thank you that we are here today because we're celebrating you, Jesus, and your faithfulness to us, your commitment to us as a faithful friend, your friendship to us. Thank you for that. Thank you for your courage and your commitment to do what was necessary. And I thank you that your faithfulness to fulfill every promise is one that gives us hope. So I just thank you, and I just pray now, Holy Spirit, come upon us as we worship again, as we bring our time together as a close. Just remember that you don't leave us, you don't go away, that you're with us through this week. Jesus, help us to just come before you and spend time in your presence. Amen.